Stampers, this is Karen Phillip. I'm a Stampin Up Demonstrator, and I'd like to show you this really cool technique called Sepia watercoloring. This is the card we'll be making today, and it's just a stunning card, and it looks harder than it really is. For my club members, this is what your sample will look like that you can attach to your recipe card. So let's get started. First, you will need a piece of watercolor paper, on this card, 3 3/4 by 5. You will take your water painter, and I'm using the brush, and you want to make sure that it has plenty of water in there and that you can squeeze out extra water. So I'm going to squeeze this and hope it works. And I'm not like killing it, I'm just pressing on one. There's 2 marks that say push, and you just hold it, and then eventually the water will come out, and now it's doing that. So I'm just spreading this extra water over the top. I should have a napkin or something here, but I don't, so we will just go with it. And you want it nice and wet. Then we will take our soft suede stamp pad. You can puddle it into your lid, but what I found, somebody suggested this, you take a block, you touch your ink, and then you have the ink, and it's less difficult than trying to squeeze your pad. And it seems to work better too, I don't know. Alright, so now we have our ink on our block. You want plenty of water on this as well, so you get a nice slurry here, and we will just gently put some color on your piece of watercolor paper. Now while I have this, I also have a oval that I punched out of the double oval punch, and I'm putting this on that as well, and that's for the sentiment. I just want a little bit of the color on there. Tiny bit more on the bottom. And that way you have a cool, there we go, a cool look for your card. Now you can see this is all curved up, and we will use the heat tool to dry that, because you need that dried in order to stamp on it, and then it will flatten out. So sorry for the noise here, and I'll get that dried real quick. If you have little drops, you can use your napkin or paper towel to dry that off, or just make it part of the design. If it curls the other way, just flip it over. Do it again. There we go. So it dries pretty quickly. Need the heat tool again. Oops, okay. Next we'll need this again, so don't wipe it off yet. Next we will be stamping our cabin. Now this is very important. You want to do it with StazOn. If you don't, your image will get, I'm trying to find the card. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to stamp it with the StazOn, and then I'll show you the difference. Water and StazOn work well together. Memento or any of the water-based inks just blend. So that's why StazOn is important to use for this. Okay, I don't want to play around because StazOn dries very quickly. So I'm just holding that on there so it can absorb into the paper. There, now we have our cabin. And let me show you, I hope, So you can see, maybe, this has lines, especially on the top, and this does not. The definition just went away when I colored it with the aqua painter or the water painter, and it just took all the lines out. So that's why it's very important to use StazOn. But we will color it later. I don't want to get it all wet yet. Now we will do our stamping, and I'm using the first stamp was the Peaceful Cabin, so I'm using this cabin. You could use any of these things in here, but I'm just doing the cabin. Then I also I'm using the Very Versailles. It's one of those pretty sets that works great for backgrounds. And I'm using this Merriest Moments, and I'm using this stamp out of it. It's not necessary that you have all three, but for sure I would suggest the Very Versailles and the Log Cabin. So this, I'm using the words for this, and there is a upside down way or regular way. My Early Espresso ink, and we will take, I'm just inking up the top part of it, and we'll just stamp it on the bottom a little bit, and then I'm going to ink up the opposite side for the top, and again you'll just random, like so. They'll all look different. Next, from that same stamp set, there is this fleur thing, or whatever that's called. I don't know what it's called. So I want to put my sentiment over here, so we'll sort of make like the sentiment will fit nicely in there, so sort of like a frame for it. And we'll put another one up here, and one up there. That should be good. Next, I'll take that leaf that I showed you, or the branch. We'll put one there, and maybe one there. So again, it's pretty random, but I'm leaving the space around the cabin pretty free. You gotta know when to stop. I'm stopping. Okay, and then that's all we need to stamp with that. Next, we will take our embossing buddy, and it should be dry, but if not, then you have your embossing buddy. And you want to go over the whole thing, because then that will help from the ink going all over everything. You could use some cornstarch, that would work if you don't have a buddy. We no longer carry them. You want to just get off that excess. Okay. We will then take, this is another stamp. It's just a small stamp that was in that Merriest Moments. Or you could use this stamp for the flowers that we will be embossing in white. So we need Versamark for this. And I'll just stamp these over the top of everything. And then I'm doing 4 of them. Again, random. And that just kind of gives it a pop of color, or not color, but a pop. Do the embossing powder. I keep mine in a container that's easier for me to dunk. Next we will heat it up. Sorry for the noise. Oops. So this one for some reason got embossing powder there, so I'm going to brush that off. I don't want this to be, and you'll be able to feel it. You may not be able to see it, but you'll feel it. Making sure you don't take off any of your designs. Okay. That was just a plain paintbrush. Okay, this should go quickly. notice I'm not going like this. That does not help it dry quicker. You just go with the design. You start on one corner and just push it up, and that will emboss nicely, and you'll be more assured that it will be all embossed. There we go. Oops, that wasn't good for that. Okay, so now we will just assemble it. Oh no, we have to color it first. We have to color the cabin. So we have our ink that we put on our block, and we'll use the smaller tip from the painter. They're the aqua water painters, they're called. They come 3 in a pack. And then we'll grab some of that water, the watered down part of it, and we will just put color in the cabin. You always want to call this a barn. Just add a little color to the barn, or to the cabin. Goes quickly. Again, you don't have to be careful with it because you have your whole image that's little on the roof, or the chimney, I mean. Okay, and that's all you need to do for coloring the cabin. Now you notice on this one we have a white roof. If you have a gel pen, you could do that, or I'm going to use bleach. So I have put some bleach in an old aqua painter, and this one's not Stampin' Up, it's just an old one I had. Make sure I have some. And you have to be very careful with bleach. You could put it in a little bowl, but for a class it gets pretty smelly, and the risk of it spilling is pretty great. So I put it in an aqua painter that I won't use for anything else. You really don't need to well, I'm going to squeeze it just a tad away from everything, just to make sure I have the bleach in the brush. And now I'm lightly, just ever so slightly, touching the snow areas, and you want to avoid hitting anything that was colored. You can go over the dots here. Anything that's colored with the soft suede, or soft suede, because it will turn your there. Oops. So now this, you may notice it will probably turn blue, a more blue. So it's basically the reaction, and this with the bleach and the ink. So I'm just adding a little bit of white for the snow, and you can see that this is turning blue and this is white, and that's why. And again, I wasn't coloring it, I was just lightly touching it, and then the color, just the white just appears. So that's a pretty cool way to color your image. If you do bleaching on any cardstock, it will turn it a completely different color, which is interesting. And it's an experimental kind of thing. You can't say, well, this one will always be this one will always be that. I'm trying to see if I have here's a blue one. You can see the difference, how blue one is. Maybe can't. So this one is the blue one, this one is the white one. But this one isn't as bad as some of them that some of the class members had. And that was the result of not doing it on StazOn. Okay. Now to put the card together, super simple. A piece of very vanilla, 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the center and folded. And then I'm just using soft suede for the background, 4 by 5.25. Ooh, that bleach has an aura. Strong. You don't want to use old bleach, by the way, because then it won't turn. It has to be fairly fresh or not expired, let's put it that way. So now I'm using my Tombow glue to attach the watercolor paper because it will stay on much better. The tape runners, any of the tape runners, don't work as well. So I just use the Tombow. Hold it down for a moment. Okay, and then you will take your sentiment piece, and this one I want to stamp differently, and I want to put Merry Christmas on here, and then you'll just use your dimensionals to put that right there, and you have a really pretty card. So why don't you try this technique? It's fun, it's easy, it's beautiful. You can do this with any kind of stamp sets. So thanks for watching and have a great day.